Good evening and welcome to Bake with Ali, as it is today, because I appear to have, look, if you look at this, a saucepan. But don't panic, it's nothing too untoward. So hope you can join us. If not, if you're watching back later, absolutely great. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you a recipe to make your own air dry clay. It's a nice simple recipe, but it does require cooking, so I am going to cook it. It's not a particularly robust item when it's made, when it's dried, but a coat of PVA glue or your gesso and things like that will make it absolutely fine. And all the techniques that I'm going to do with the clay that I've made, you can use with the shop bought clay as well. It's just a really fun one, and it means that you can make things even if you haven't got air dry clay, because the two main ingredients in it are the sort that you are likely to have in your kitchen cupboard. So because obviously I do have to do a little bit of business side of it, I have added some moulds to the website. They're the Carantha moulds. They're the original Crafty Notions ones. We've got a couple of ones that are specifically designed for jewellery making, like this one that I've got here, where they have special slots in them that your wires can go in, so if you're wanting to make necklaces and things like that. And again, this recipe that we're doing is ideal for that. But what I would do is when it's fully dried and you've decorated how you want, maybe give it a coat of clear nail polish or something like that, just to seal it all in, because it is being made from corn flour and stuff like that. So Maz is there, so we'll go make a start. Oh, evening Jack. Right. Oh, we also have Marvin now. He's just appeared. The pitter patter of feet. Right, so let's get started. So I'm going to flick to overhead camera. Can I just make it very clear? This is a craft saucepan. This is a craft hob. Okay, I'm also going to move that because that's in shot. Hi Mira. Hi Elsbeth. Right, so it is, although what we're using, you can use your normal saucepans. I just wanted to make it clear I don't cook Paul's tea in this. I got a wooden spoon, which anybody who was with me on Sunday, I did bleach it because it was rather stained. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some bicarbonate of soda. Now you can do like proper cooking measurements, but it's a ratio recipe, so it's easy enough to just use any old container. So it's one, this is a gilding flake pot in case you're wondering. 2 parts bicarbonate of soda. Okay, this is going to make quite a lot, so just scale it up and down as you want. And 1 part corn flour. Okay, which to me originally when I did this, it seemed a little bit, I felt it was sort of almost around the wrong way. So I'm just going to spoon this in. You would sort of expect the flour to be the higher proportion. Okay, a bit more in that. Okay, in goes that. And then we want, so it's 2 to 1 on that, but then you kind of want 1.5 of your water. Now obviously the water is less important because you're going to cook it out, so, but we just need to be able to mix it. So 1.5. Okay, there we go. Doesn't that look delightful? Right, I am going to turn the hob on and start mixing this. It is an electric hob, so it takes a little bit longer. It's not like my gas one at home. So I just want to mix this out, and I am going to do this live. If some colour comes out of this, this is because this is one of the pans we were using for eco printing, and despite the fact of me washing it, I may well have missed a little bit. So we might be adding some natural colouring, and it will fizz a little bit. This is fabulous, it fizzes. So you just want to keep stirring it, get rid of the lumps. If it takes too long, I will stop, but the hob is on. It didn't take very long, but I was on the gas hob. Yeah, so just stir it so you get rid of the lumps. Hi Hazel, hi Maxine, hi Sarah, Sue, Maz, excellent Maz, good luck for Friday, Maria, Lorena, am I saying your name right? Because it's a beautiful name and I'd hate to say it wrong. Now this does look like I've put vanilla beans in. I haven't. But I can already feel that that is starting to thicken up. It's also got a grainy sound, so apologies about that. It's because of the bicarbonate of soda in it. So you just keep mixing it until it starts to come away from the pan and become a bit of a dough. It looks really weird when it's done that. You'll see in a minute. It shouldn't take long, but chat amongst yourselves. Right, brilliant, thank you. I do worry because it's so easy to get a name wrong. There we go. So we're just stirring this. It does come together, trust me. Okay, maybe if it's not infused with bits of plant. Yeah, you can see as I'm moving that around, it is starting to thicken up. But it goes a bit like gravy in the fact that it doesn't seem to be doing anything, and all of a sudden it starts to go. And see, unlike gravy, we are going to need this. Not this one because this is going to be super hot. But you can make this ahead of time and just keep it in an airtight box. Obviously, because it is homemade, it is not going to keep forever in its wet form, so to speak. Once it's air dried, you know it's starting to happen because it will start to sort of fizz and bubble. Once it's dry, it will keep forever as long as you don't get it damp. You can paint it and everything when it's done, and it's a food safe one, because not maybe my version because I've cooked it in the pan with the eco printing. So it is good for little ones to have. It won't taste very nice, but that's not always a bad thing. So good for Hazel still watching. Well, right, what we're making air dry clay. So it's bicarbonate of soda and corn flour, 2 parts bicarb to 1 part corn flour, and then about 1.5 parts water. Okay. I was going to say, if Hazel's still watching, yes, you can. Yeah, this is really good for making Christmas decorations, but I'm not allowed to say that word until about mid-November. Hazel lets me use that word. Right, so you can see it starting to come together. I am going to actually turn the hob off and say, because it's an electric hob, see how quickly once it starts to go. And that's about the stage you want, okay? And then you would take it off the heat and leave it to cool, okay? So, talking of taking it off the heat, I need to get rid of this hob. So, bear with me a minute. So, I need something. Yeah, I know, my poor cutting mat. Even worse, I was hitting a Grand Caliber with a hammer today. We couldn't save it. Right, so I'm just going to get rid of this a second, because this does get a bit warm. It's not been on that long, so it's not that warm, but I'm just taking necessary precautions. So you would let this cool down and you've got a dough, okay? Now that's going to be too hot for me to knead. I'm just going to remember not to put my pan back on there because that is quite warm, okay? And it's also very, very soft at this point. Okay, so just leave that to cool. And in true Blue Peter style, here is one I made earlier in a clean pan. So when you first take it after it's cooled down, it looks like it's not a clay. It breaks apart quite easily. But actually it just needs a little bit of kneading. Even this one, you can see it's sort of got that breaking kind of dough feel, very much like kids' Play-Doh. Okay. Now I'm going to keep it wrapped up, and I'm not going to knead excessively what I don't need. Bad jokes. So as soon as you start to warm it around in your hand, it becomes a nice malleable dough. So let's have a little play. So first of all, let's try it in a mould. God, that pan's warm. So I don't need very much. Just going to press it in so it's nice and soft. Okay, and pop it out there. I know you can't see a massive amount of detail on that. We'll come back to that in a minute. I love this one because what you can do is when you've got it in the mould. This is one of the moulds I was talking about, has these slots here so that you can put your wires in, so your wires will be completely encased. Yes, Hazel, poor Grand Caliber has gone to Grand Caliber heaven. It is not my original one. It is just one of the others, but we did have to recover the mats. So required an angle grinder, a vise, a wrench, a hammer and various other things. Right, so while this is in here flat, because this is off soft and malleable, I can look around and see what I've got that I can then press a texture into there. And there's a texture in there. I know it's probably harder to see, but we are going to start adding in some colour so you will see it. Okay, so we've got that teardrop. And then while it's still soft, I would take a little something and make a hole in it, so it's going to be a necklace. Right, so we're going to start off just playing with moulds. So we can add something to this mould to make it show up a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our mica powder and we're going to dust our mould. Okay, bit of an excess. Okay, so we've dusted our mould. Now we're going to, you can see straight away that's going to be fab. I'm going to dust a bit more in that. Okay, so I don't need quite as much as that. So pressing it in. I hope the mic's not picking that up, Marv. He's sitting there licking his feet. I think he's caught his pad, so he's licking his pad. You see that? And obviously the mica likes the moisture from the clay, so will actually set on there and you'll get that lovely, lovely shimmer to it. Okay, so you can have a lot of fun with mica. You could even apply a little bit of ink inside that. When it's dry, you can then go over with gilding wax and things like that. But that's a nice one of just doing that. Let's now play with this one, because what I love about this... Hi, Maureen. Hi, Julie. Right. So again, taking a little bit, knead it a little bit. So this could be an ice cube tray, you know, mould type thing. So let's just... So I'm putting it in a little bit so I don't go too far over the top, because then you get that edge like that and you're going to have to trim that off later. So let's find something we can press into that. So I've got some stamps here. Again, these are on the website. So, and I'm going to ink them so that I can now come in, press it down, and I've noticed I haven't put it on an acrylic block, so I want to be able to press in. And it's grabbed that texture and the ink and put that into our embellishment. Now I'm popping these out of the moulds before they've dried. You could leave it in the mould, but I tend to pop it out so that the air can get right round. The other thing you could do is, once you've popped it out, is drape it over something. So like, I'm going to need my blusher brush, but you could just sort of shape it around so that you're getting a bit of dimension to it. Now I'm only using small moulds. This could be your bigger moulds, but just allow more time for it to dry. Okay, so let's up this a little bit. I'm just going to ink that again. And I'm going to go for that sort of, I don't know, I'm going to ink all of it. I'll decide which bit I'm going to use in a minute. Now, where's my, excuse me, that will be coming in a minute. Whew, why did I choose to have a hob on up here? It's like an oven up here at the best of times. Right, so I'm now dusting some mica onto there as well. So we've got ink and mica on there. And then press that in. and you're getting these lovely, and because the mica has sat in the well of that, get that out. What a fabulous texture that's given that. And the mica, so the mica is on top of the ink and just on the clay as well. Again, you could leave it in the mould a little bit longer just to sort of firm up slightly to make it a little bit easier to manipulate, but it's doing all right. Okay, I want to do that tulip. So it's got a bit of the pink on there. I'm just going to do it with a little bit of this sort of gold pearl mica and a little bit of the red, just sort of mixing it up. Obviously it's going to be a little bit easier if you've got a bigger mould, but I kind of like these little embellishmenty sort of size, and they don't take as long to dry. Because the trouble is when you're drying it, is if you're drying it too quickly, it can sometimes crack. So it's best to sort of do it and leave it somewhere not too hot. So up here wouldn't be ideal. Oh, come on, little bag. Come on, little bag. There we go. Just want to add a little bit of green. Just sort of down the bottom there. So we're getting a bit of a variegated look. So grab a little bit more. Now that's cooled down on the outside, so I'm just going to manipulate that a little bit, and then I would actually wrap that, because even now that outside is starting to go a little bit crispy, so I would actually take some cling film and wrap that up, or put it in an airtight box. It doesn't take long. It's going to go in bubble wrap. It doesn't actually take long for it to start the drying process, which is good, but not if you're trying to sort of work with it, especially on a hot day like today. So keep it just under. I wouldn't use a wet towel or flannel or anything like that on this. It's not that sort of, it because it's wheat based, flour based. It could sort of make it go completely mushy. So just keep it away from the air. Now, again, I've done that thing where I've put too much in. So I'm just going to take my ruler or something and just sort of, ruler probably isn't the best thing. That's it. There we go. Smooth the back again. And then we're going to pop this one out. And it's got that sort of variegated look because we've got the pink on the one side and then the golden on the other. So that's using it with moulds very, very simply, and you can go a little bit to town. Then you let it dry and you can come in with more colour onto it. You can come in with your gilding waxes, you could paint it, whatever you want once it's dry. I say you can shape it and manipulate it while it's still damp. So in moulds, it's great fun. Okay, I'm just going to move them up to the top. But what else can we use with it? So, moving them up in a nice little line. Oh, that's one from earlier. And again, what's nice is the fact that you can incorporate your pre-existing craft products. So your rubber stamps and things. So let's do some stamps. The two stamps I've put on the website to complement these is these two texture ones. Okay, because I just think they're really nice for this. Right, let's have a little play with this one. Now I could take a whole panel. In fact, I might do that because I've got that other bit there. You could have a rolling pin. So I'm going to make this sort of stretch it out a little bit. Don't know why I didn't bring a rolling pin. Because I tend to, when I'm working with clay, I tend not to use a rolling pin. I like the tactile feel of it, so is that long enough yet? No, not quite. Let's stretch it out a bit more. Might not end up doing the whole thing. So I'm going to use my ruler again and just sort of square this off. Because I just thought a nice long panel. It's not going to be the whole of this, but okay, so we could just press this in. It's probably easier to go that way. If you are doing that onto your cutting mat, put a piece of paper or something underneath, like so, so you don't stick to your cutting mat unless you've got a palette knife or something there that you can, so you can just press into it. Okay, and then it's fine, it's got the texture, but you'd have to do some work with it afterwards. So let's do some, actually let's do 3 bits, 1, and then we can do, and when it's dry we'll have a nice little sort of triptych we can put together. So first, let's do some ink. So I'm going to flatten that bit down and sort of, where's my cookie cutter? I don't know whether it would adhere as well to books, but you could certainly build up on it and then just be prepared to back it up with a little bit of glue if need be. And I would recommend making the cornflour glue, would actually work really well for adhering it. Right, so first things first, we're just going to create one by pressing in, which is really pretty. Next one, we're going to move it up a little bit. Going to try and do the same, roughly the same section. Okay, might be a bit harder, but I haven't got a massive amount of my pens here, so we'll just have to use very basic colours. In fact, I will stick with the blue. So what I'm doing is I am actually colouring the bed of the stamp. That's the back bit, the bit that supports the image, okay? I'm not colouring the image. Might be coming onto the image because I'm a bit heavy-handed. So what I'm going to do, so I'm getting into those little bits at the back there. And in fact, here might be quite nice. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a piece of paper and I'm going to blot. So I'm taking away where it's on the bit we traditionally stamp with, okay? So now when I press in, so I've got to press it firmly in. How do I clean my stamps off? Do I ever clean them? Soap and water if I need to. So if I now put this up next to there, can you see it's actually done the reverse? So here the heart is clean. Here, because I've put the ink into that bit, it's lifted it away and the lines are white. So I think if we do this one, we could be really clever. Actually, or no, we'll do this up, this other section up here because it's got some. So let's do blue around here. So you just got to work it in, and then I've got an orange. Okay. But yeah, soap and water usually does the trick with stamps. If they're really mucky, get an old toothbrush and sort of work into them. Or put a little bit of soap onto like the scoury bit and just sort of rub them backwards and forwards. Silicone pastry brush is quite good if you've got a silicone pastry brush that's going a bit past its best. If you trim it down to be fairly short and stubby, you can actually use that to get in. And then I'm now going to add some colour as well. So we're going to get like a double whammy here. So we've got colour embedded and colour on the surface. Now this technique I'm doing now, yes, I'm doing it with my homemade clay, but you could easily do this with commercial clay as well. So Get your clay down and then press. Mind your fingers, because your fingers will get inky. So you get a really colourful version because you get colour in a lot more places. And then I would square that off or cut it up into sections so that you've got bits to make pendants with. But again, these work really well on cards because once they've dried out, they're fairly lightweight, so you can put them onto cards and things like that, and they look really cool. And you can cut them into fancy shapes with your cookie cutters and things like that, or you know, just square them off, or let them dry and then actually snap them, and then it becomes like a broken piece of china. But a nice way to do it, I haven't got a knife here, but is actually divide it up and then glaze them with maybe some nail polish or some ultra thick embossing, and then put them back together so it's like a mosaic, and that looks really cool. But that's using, just very simply using your inks and your stamps. Right, so we'll put them to one side. Okay, another bit. Okay, I've got some there. Okay, let's go to that stamp. It's already got a bit of mica on it, but we're going to go down to this middle bit here. So let's put some ink on it, and let's just do on some paper. You nearly let me forget. And also clean your fingers if you're not wanting your clay to go multicoloured. So I'm just gonna, I've only got a big cookie cutter, but it's fine because what I can do is I can still, need an iron, I can actually cheat and square it off like that. Okay, and then I'm just going to do, very simply, press the stamp into it again. And it's just really cool. But let's up this a little bit. Let's come in with some ink. And that mica. And again, I'm going to sort of go quite heavy-handed with the mica. Possibly not that heavy-handed, but hey. And this time, I'm actually going to work on top of the stamp. It's going to be easier for me to see. So, squaring it off roughly in my hands. Okay, down it goes. I'm going to press that down a bit firmer. Actually, I'm going to flick it over. Gives you a firmer finish. It's just a little bit sort of wishy-washy otherwise. And then you've got your mica and your ink all embedded in that, and you've got some fabulous texture there. And like panels like this are the sort of things that I'll be using on Sunday in the mixed media workshop. This is why I thought I'd do this now, because those people that are on the mixed media workshop, if they haven't got a main focal image, they can make one using this clay. The other thing you can do is get something like a paintbrush, take it through the middle, form a shape around it, then take your stamp and roll across, and then leave that to dry, and you've got a bead. Obviously you do it more carefully. Let's screw that up, because we can. That's what's great with dough, clay. So taking it through, pressing it fairly firmly around you, and then roll, and it will pick up the texture, the ink, whatever you've got on there. Okay. Right, so we've done some mica, we've done some ink. Let's try something slightly different. Now, I did do one earlier and it wasn't easy to see on camera, so we will see if we can, by adding a bit of ink, but if not, I did find a way to make it appear because it did pick up the texture. So you can see it's picked up the texture of the leaf, and then what you can do is come in and dust some mica on as well. And again, the mica will, you see that texture appearing. I'm going to switch to the side camera a second. 1 second. Because I'm hoping that you can see that. Let's get it on my hand, it's going to be easier. You see that texture of the leaf. And then if I leave that sort of draped over something a little bit more natural than perfectly flat, you've got a really nice leaf embellishment. So just find something that's got a bit of a curve, or, you know, just even a pen or something like that, just to let it dry on there, and it will take the shape. So yeah, use natural things. Look around at what you've got that's texture. We do this one quite a bit when we're doing texture. Come back here. Oh, come back here as well. Okay. So my fingers are starting to get a little bit sticky. Right. Now again, you probably can't see the texture in that, but if we come in again with mica, or might still be a bit wet for me to do this, but I'll give it a go. No, that's fine. I just can't press too hard because it is obviously still soft. But you can see you get that fabulous texture. And then you could cut that out into shapes. You could also dust your mica on top of it as well. And just, you know, you've got such a fabulous medium here to work with. You can model with it as well, but I'm not very good. I could probably make a pig. Let's do a quick pig. It's about the only thing I could ever make out of Fimo. So we're going to flatten him down. Give him some eyes with me all. There it is. Give him some eyes. Nose. But say you'd probably be better at modelling than me. That's a bit of a big nose. Squish it down. 2 snouts. Little ears. And it is quite a soft clay when it's at this stage. So you can manipulate it. So there you go, got a piggy. Leave him up there. Probably best with the stamps and things. What about the trodden on? I don't know where the trodden on pie case has gone. I've lost it. I'm gutted. Probably somebody thought it was rubbish and threw it in the bin. I mean, how dare they? Yes, but that would work really nicely. I did just see something that might be quite nice. But yeah, you get the idea that you can start to create really interesting panels. And if you plan it a little bit, and have like a rectangle and then divide it up like we did with the stamping, that sort of where we divide, no, we did it with the former foam actually. Oh, me and mica powders. Now you can't, I've just picked up some mica because I spilt it. When you colour it with mica, you will get the colour, but you won't get the shimmer. You only get the shimmer if the mica is sitting on the surface. Okay, if the mica is mixed in, because it is a cornflour based clay, it will actually sort of coat the mica so you won't see the colour, but you can colour it with it. It just won't have the shimmer. In fact, so let's just roll that in some more mica. Also good for cleaning, so you could use it to clean your keyboard. Okay, and I was also going to then just colour some with some of the red. So I'm using this not as the mica but as a colour, because then you can take two sausages, twist them together, roll it around, and then press that into a mould, split it a bit, and then you get a nice two-tone marbled effect in red and green for that period we're not allowed to mention. So you get sort of two tones. So you can really play, and that's just come about because I spilt some. But the other thing I really wanted, I'm absolutely melting now. Bear with me a minute. I'm going to just have a glug of water because it's gone really hot. Trouble is we're upstairs as well, and all the lights. It gets very hot in here. That's why we use a bottle of water for colouring things. Right, so let's just move that, because the one I want to show you now is really nice. So I'm nearly out of my first batch of clay. But you can see, you can make a batch, and that will be, I mean, it is still warm, but I could use that if I do want to. I was just going to use that little strainer. I thought that might be quite an interesting texture. Again, you could put mica or ink or something on that so it'd show up. But what I wanted to show was, okay, let's just get this flattened down. So it will peel off the paper later, but I just want to make sure it's on there. And I'm going to come in with some gilding flake. Okay. And I'm going to just... Now this is one that once it's dry, I would probably coat it with some nail polish or something, some glue or something over the top, just so the mica, the gilding flake can't be picked out. I mean, it's going to be embedded into the clay, but just to give it a little bit of extra. So get your gilding flake on. I want a bit more copper. That's a big lump of copper. So I'm going to spread it out a little bit, because it can't really overlap each other because there's nothing holding it on other than being pressed into the clay. Right. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Oh no, there's a bit there. So then we're going to take one of our stamps. I think I'm going to go with that top bit there, and we're going to press firmly into the clay. Okay, peel it out, and can you see that's embedded the gilding flake into that? And I would be tempted on this one to take a knife and cut around the excess, but if you wanted to, you could also come in and maybe dusting. There you go, psychic me. Maybe we can dust it with a bit of mica as well, just because somebody spilt mica all over my desk. That would be me. And it's just going to take away the whiteness of that clay. So this works really nicely. If you do have air dry clay kicking about, because we all did, you know, it was a very popular thing and we all bought packs of it and didn't necessarily. Look how fabulous that looks. Let that dry, and then if you did add a little bit of a shine to it, it would just be fabulous. I'm going to do one more of those because I might want that for Sunday. Leave that there. So another piece of... I'm going to try down to my last little bit of clay. I might get some more of this one out. Interesting colour, this. So just going to mix the two together. So let's roll a sausage. Going back to my Play-Doh days now. And I've got another acrylic block because they work really well as squishers. So flatten it down. Flatten it down a bit more. Tiny bit more. If I can get it quite thin, it'll dry quite quickly. And then I'm going to square this off. So top, bottom, and down. So you can, if you've got proper clay tools, amazing. But if you haven't, don't panic. You can improvise. Okay. So I'm going to come in again with the gilding flake. So I'm sort of picking, got a mixed pot. I think this is autumn green. And the treat thing from yesterday, special offer, will still apply if you wanted to take advantage of 3 pots of gilding flake for £10, but it will be a surprise. Okay, just because I'm trying to do this thing on a Tuesday where I recap, especially as the lives are disappearing. I just think it's quite nice if we recap on ones. So, okay. I'm going to ink this up as well. Will that then just, no, I might not ink it up. So I'm going to try and get that as central as possible. Press it down firmly so it's going to, okay. Then I want a little bit of this red. I'm going to put a bit of red, a bit of that green because that did, I'll just pick it up off the desk. Tiny bit more. Watch this, I'll spill it again and end up with loads. And then my favourite, my absolute favourite is this one, which is the gold pearl. You can tell it's my favourite because I've clearly closed the pot bag again. And then I'm just going to take this. So the idea being that there's going to be no plain clay showing. Okay, give it a few seconds for the moisture from the clay to suck into the mica. And then gently. You don't want to rub too hard because obviously that gild, you don't want to take away too much of the gilding flake. I want to try and get that off that card and onto a piece of black because I think that is going to look amazing. Oh, my hands. I'll tell you what, my hands are a bit dry. Right. Oh, that's right. I didn't know what I'd done with my scissors. Oh, yes, that's right. I had my scissors, then my scissors vanished. Vanishing scissors, common problem around here. Might have to tear it. I just don't want to peel it off too soon. I might be able to. Right, let's move the black though before it gets completely covered in everything. The idea being that took the corner off. But actually, that's making me think of sort of, you know, Roman mosaics and things like that. There we go. Tuck that under. I mean, look at that. That looks, you know, you wouldn't know that that's corn flour, bicarbonate of soda. So let that dry. And then I think I would want to glaze that just to make sure that that's completely protected. But isn't that lovely? All that texture. It's got, does anybody remember Friendly Plastic? Because it's got that sort of feel about it. Again, that would be one you could possibly sort of divide it up and things like that. So the ones that we did earlier, let's see if I can get my other Gilding Flake one off its paper. Me, be patient. So this is me being impatient, so do as I say, not as I do. So I can put that back together. There we go. I just think they look really cool. So yeah, so just let them dry. But those that we did a little while ago, I mean, they're not properly dry, but you'd get the idea from this. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. So let's go back to those ones right back at the beginning where, you know, we just used the clay fairly plain. You can come in with a bit of a sponge and some ink. I'm going to get a new sponge because that's fossilised amber. And you can ink them and it will start to pick out that detail. Okay, like the ones we did there. So here was our one. What did we press onto this? Can't remember. So long ago, can't remember. Don't know if that has got any texture. Oh, I think we pressed that funny netting into it. But you can add some ink, you can add mica, but I don't think you're going to top this sort of idea with them. But you know, here's our leaf. You know, it's a very lovely embellishment that you've created. It's very simply ones. This one's drying up nicely with the mica. It's got like a real galaxy feel to it. So you can have a lot of fun. And just to recap, yeah, with the space between, yeah, exactly, Evie. Yeah, I would break it. You could, and do it on purpose as well, so that you can create these little tiles. So this was a little tile one, especially if you then come on with some clear nail polish or something over the top, just to give it a little bit of shine. It would just give that fabulous. But something like that, you could even dip them in UV resin. I mean, that as a pendant would just look amazing. But again, on the front of a book or something like that, it is a really lovely one. And it's something that you can really just play with. You're not going to, I mean, I know cornflour's not bustingly cheap. It's, you know, it's not as cheap as it used to be. But it doesn't take a massive amount. Bicarb is the biggest thing. And but the chances are you've probably got a bicarbonate of soda in the back of the cupboard that's possibly past its best and you might not use for cooking, but would be absolutely fine for this. And as I say, it is food safe in the fact that it's not nothing nasty chemicals or anything. It's not going to taste very nice, but if little Liz play with it, it's quite nice. And then you can leave it to dry. That was the Gilding Flake one I did earlier, and I just added ink to that, not mica, and I think I actually prefer the mica to it. But yeah, so just remember, hang on, where am I going? There. Apologies, I'm absolutely roasting. So yeah, it's 2 parts bicarbonate of soda to 1 part corn flour, and then about 1.5 parts water. Start to cook it out. You saw how it cooked out. Put your pan in to soak fairly quickly, because that's rather yummy. But because it does start to dry out quite quickly. Your best bet is to wrap it up in a little bit of cling film or something like that, and then it will keep. It obviously won't keep forever when it's still in clay form, but it gives you plenty to play with. So I just thought this is a really nice one for anybody that is signed up to do the mixed media workshop on Sunday. It just gives you something that you can create maybe a little bit more dimension with and things like that. So the workshop on Sunday, I know quite a few of you are coming along to that. I say coming along, you can sit there with your cup of tea. But the idea of that is it is going to be recipes and things like this, and making use of stuff that so that you can get stuck into a mixed media project without breaking the bank, because you know at the end of the day nobody's got as much spare money as they used to have, but crafting is still so important. That escapism, that bit of time for yourself, that creative outlet, that just how long will it keep once dry? Once they're dry, they should keep forever, as long as they don't get wet. So what I would say is, if you're planning on making jewellery or something like that, give it a little bit of a varnish afterwards, up until one of the boys knocked them off the wall. Paul's mum had some homemade dough ornaments on her wall for years and years and years. I can't remember which boy knocked them off. And I say boys, they're all 50s and late 40s. But yeah, so they will keep. Just bear in mind, it's not as robust as normal clay. So yeah, a bit of varnish, bit of Mod Podge, or even nail polish, just something to just seal it in a little bit so that it won't absorb moisture. Because that's the biggest danger with things like this, is it absorbing moisture. It's no different to old-fashioned paper mache with the flour and water. And anybody that does book restoration will know that the pastes made with flour and water attract the moisture and things. But if you cook it out, it's less dodgy. But yeah, so they would keep, and it's just something really fun and an alternative way of using your stamps and things like that. So it's a nice way of adding a bit more dimension to your cards and stuff. And also stick a magnet on the back of it, or add a tassel to it, make it a bookmark, make it a brooch, something like that, so that you're using all your things you've already got and upping it a little bit and adding some extra layer to it. So that's homemade air dry clay, and yeah, just have fun with it. So news for this week. Right, let's think. So where are we? So Friday, I'm on Hobby Maker at 4 o'clock, sandwiched between Leonie and, I can't remember who else I saw, but yeah, Leonie's there. So she's got Stamperia, I think. So I'm doing Japanese stab binding and some other bits. And then, say, Sunday is the online mixed media workshop. Bank holiday Monday, so all enjoy that. Am I going to do the shaving foam technique? The shaving foam technique will come in on 22nd of June in the bookbinding workshop. We're going to do paste papers and shaving foam marbling, ready to do end pages. So yes. So yeah, Hobby Maker on Friday, mixed media on Sunday. It's a bank holiday Monday again, so everybody enjoy the long weekend, and I will see you here this time next week, hopefully a little bit cooler than this. And will somebody remind me not to do cooking on one of the hot days of the year? In the meantime, hang on, let me find my right button. Oh, there it is. Right, in the meantime, have a good rest of the week and a good weekend, and I will see you next week. Take care.